is beyond the pale. It doesn't happen.
You can't do that.
You cannot do it. Cannot do it. I know. Gosh, I would be I would be all over any defensive coach that made that call.
They're just at the point right now, and they get 13 picks for next season. So it's sad, though, that people were talking about, I think it was week 4, people were talking about this team getting ready for 2020. I mean, all we do as fans, and look, this isn't Dolphin country, but a lot of people were Dolphin fans before the Jacksonville Jaguars came around, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their cream color uniforms. The Dolphins originally with Dan Marino, people from the States here, and we're still in Florida. I know it's everybody, I guess you could say, people that don't know their maps will say, "Oh, you guys are down there in Florida," to my cousin in Washington State up in the Northwest. Yeah. You guys go to the Keys every week? I'm like, yep, just get in our cars and go 13 hours. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. But everybody just thinks Florida, and they see the postcards, and everybody lives on the beach and doesn't read the stories of what happens in Polk County. But I'm telling you, it is something, Coach, where if you look at a lot of Dolphin fans growing up in the 80s and 90s for Dan Marino and what it was down here, and I mean, when people are talking about tanking 2 to 3 weeks into a 2019 season, it's embarrassing for your program because
they shouldn't be talking about tanking, number one.
Well, I agree.
That doesn't exist. I don't care what people say. They can look at every stat they want to look at. They can make every argument they want. It does not exist. Coaches and players do not tank.
I agree.
Not going to do it.
They don't, and I think that the word gets sort of. That's a bad word to use when people talk about tanking. GMs and management can set teams up for failure by putting people in certain positions. Bad offensive linemen, bad coaches, things. But the players themselves and the coaching staffs are working their you-know-what off to try to have a good product. And I think sometimes people throw that word in there. Nobody is going out there trying to lose ball games. But you can set up an opportunity where your team has no shot of winning based on who you have.
It really makes me mad because when you use the word, it filters down to everyone. Okay. Anytime somebody hears Joe Blow out here on the street, hears the word tanking, he's talking about somebody in the National Football League itself, the whole league, doing something that's unacceptable.
Yeah. And not doing their job and embarrassing.
Exactly. Or especially these guys that gamble now.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, they look at they're conspiracy theorists from the word go.
Oh, we didn't land on the moon either. I met Buzz, I said he was a great actor. No, look, we live in a society where people buy into everything, and it's pretty sad. But at the same time, the Dolphins are a bad football team. The Steelers win. Let's move on from that because, it was a Monday Night Football game that when they set at the beginning of the season, they were a lot happier. J.J. Watt, we were having the conversation. This is a guy, Coach, not too many people that follow the game know that J.J. Watt was a pizza delivery guy. That's a guy you better have tipped, too. Just imagine him being like stiffing a 6'5", 290 guy in Central Michigan. But he was in Central Michigan. He wasn't even at Wisconsin. He had an opportunity to be a walk-on at Wisconsin. And he sort of fits the mold of a Badger, which is maybe not the most athletically talented guy ever, but a guy that's physically, mentally, and a football player challenged each and every week to go the extra mile and became that guy. And that's what Wisconsin, their reputation is. Big guys that are going to always play, and they're football players. They might not run a 4-4, but these guys are always going to play hard, extra tough, old school type football. And J.J. Watt has done that. He helped over $2 million being raised for Hurricane Harvey during the relief. Just a great guy on and off the field. The kids look up to him. Ladies love him. And the difference is he's now hurt for the third time in 4 seasons. He will not finish the season without going not to being injured, but the IR, where he's shut down for the season. And they're all different injuries, too. Coach, J.J. Watt and his legacy and what he means to the team. As a fan, you feel bad for situations like this. Don't feel bad for his checkbook, but I look at his situation and Houston's situation, and as a coach and moving forward, you just got rid of Clowney to make him the guy up front, and it is bad for a team that's still competitive in the playoffs.
Well, let me give you a little input as to what the normal procedure is with injuries. Some of it even sounds subjective, but it's subjective only to a certain degree. We used to say that if a person gets injured and misses a significant time, that's unfortunate. Gets injured twice, it's a coincidence. Misses significant time. The third time it happens, it's chronic. It's happened, and it's going to happen again. And we just feel like at that point you need to start looking at what are the options to replace that person, because he's either not going to be there because of injury, or you're going to have to trade, or you're going to have to cut. Now, you're right. What this guy has done and the play that he's just a great player, and everybody hates to lose him off any NFL roster, and which may or may not be the case. But they've got a problem now they got to deal with, and that is how they're going to handle this situation. Because for the good of their football team, I don't think they can go forward with expecting him to be there every play or in every game. And then, too, now losing Clowney, having to, before the season started or last summer, you would think that with Clowney and Watt, they would have been at a certain level. And now it's mid-season, they're getting ready for the stretch, and they don't have either.
Coach, looking right now, it's the trade deadline coming up here, potential moves. This is a part of the season as a coach that it's upsetting when you're sitting there at 3-5. It's exciting when you're sitting there at 5-3, because you know that if you have a team that is expected to win, a young GM maybe, a team that has some energy to them, the fans are excited. For instance, I would say a team that would be excited would be the Colts. And what I mean by that is the Colts with Frank Reich are a team that they were really down when they got the news Andrew Luck was out. And Andrew Andrew is a class act. He's a little goofy, but he's a class act, and he did it the right way. And he just had such bad luck for so long. And some of those Chuck Pagano offensive lines just made him embarrassed on the ground. Frank Reich comes in, they start building from, that interior wall. Now people could argue it's the best offensive line in football, and the way they play, it's protecting them, but he had that final injury and it put him over the hill. And at that point when he retired, everybody in the AFC South was excited if you were Jags, Texans, a fan of one of those teams, because you thought you had it then. But now all of a sudden Indianapolis is sitting right there for the Tide in the division lead and could win it, and I believe they will win the division. Jacoby Brissett has been serviceable. He's done his job. But if you're the Colts, that would be the perfect example of a team that would want to make that move. And then you got the teams that are sitting there that maybe the expectations were a little bit higher, and they're not, like the Denver Broncos at 2-6, who might now start shipping out to get some picks for the future. Coach, how hard is it as a coach to be dealing with this and getting hit by the media left and right when you're trying to get set for a football game in the middle of the season?
Well, it's very difficult, and it's difficult to be thinking about trading. This trading deadline activity is a new happening. It didn't happen that much. Nobody ever really thought about it when I was in coaching. You had your football team at that point, and you were going about winning football games. And the way that you were going to get ready for next year was through the draft primarily, and any other movement with players that could come up in the off season. But it was an off season deal, not an in season deal. So it's distracting. I would say, in fact, if I had been faced with answering any questions about it, I would simply have said, I will not answer any questions about it because we're not in the market.
Yes, and today I think it has a lot to do with it. And look, we're in it. We both, you and I are the local hosts. Davis does the show on the weekend, Justin. But you and I are the guys each and every day here on this network that are local, that talk to the people around here. Then afterwards, we talk to people in public, the groups, folks like Fred Levin and great people. We go meet with them and talk to them about the day. And we can influence, and hopefully we're giving you guys inside knowledge. We're not going to give you anything we don't believe to our hearts. We don't say things to be fluff, Skip Bayless, and try to have people bite on it. The difference, though, Coach, is when you look right now at the NFL or anything in general. I saw a fascinating article on YouTube, and I know you cover and talk politics more than I do. I that's why I got into the sports business, and probably less stress on my brain not having to deal with that every day. But at the same time, Coach, there was a great thing with an expert that went to the Washington. He went to Washington, D.C., he went to the Capitol, and he said, media, the way Facebook and social media and Instagram and Twitter can change by putting ads or certain things circulating on sponsors, even if they're not, by 4 to 5 million votes in this country for the presidential election. From what you see, that always is hitting your page right in front of it with a story that Trump did this or Hillary did this or whatever way they want to go, they can hit you where you start believing, and you might never even click a story to read it. With the trade deadline, back in the day, there wasn't 8 million different, there wasn't BuffaloBills.com, Buffalo, 5,000 different sites where a kid could write in his mama's basement. And now people are buying that. The GMs are reading that. The players are reading that. The coaches are reading that. And they start to believe into the hype that this guy's got to go or he's a locker room cancer. Just like people were actually buying into for a few seconds that the Patriots were in turmoil last year. Turmoil with Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Bob Kraft. The turmoil that led a 41-year-old quarterback to win another Super Bowl and to a team to win another championship.
Sure.
Now, Bob Kraft was in his own turmoil, maybe behind the scenes, but that's his own prerogative, and we're done here. But I'm telling you, Coach, it looks like right now, to me, the way that this happens, I'm reading stories right now that I know for a fact these guys aren't getting traded. But people are putting that out there, and teams are biting, and they want to make trades for it. Or the other guy's picking up the phone saying, hey, I didn't know Darius Slay was available. I didn't know Trent Williams was available. And they start talking, and then the next thing you know, a deal is made. That, to me, is the biggest difference of why it has become such a circulated craziness in the NFL.
Well, to be honest with you, I think there's, I think there's an underneath pipeline, I call it underneath, meaning not privy to the mainstream media. There's communication between teams and information that flows between teams and coaches in particular that you would never see in the press because they're not going to get it. Now, there are too many things that they are getting now. But unless something comes from, if you're coaching in the National Football League, unless you see something that you know for a fact came from a reliable source, primarily meaning another coach that you're familiar with, you're probably not going to buy it. You just don't buy it. You don't buy things that are out there. Even back before the internet, before all this, if anything came up, and many things did, that came up about certain teams that we knew there had to be some type error in either the way it was reported or who they were reporting it about. And sure enough, I mean, there were so many things, probably 80% of the things that were out there we didn't respond to.
Mike Reese and also Mike Triplett do a great job with ESPN. They cover individual teams, the New Orleans Saints and the New England Patriots. And, Coach, I wanted to ask you this question. Who do you feel right now, if it goes through, because both teams, I think, need a suitor. They've got incredible quarterbacks that are aging, that have been there, done that, and are two teams that you can look at right now, 1 and 2, and you could put Sanford in the mix as well. If you looked at New Orleans and New England, who to you, for the long haul, would need a big play threat, big-time receiver to go along with who they already have more, New Orleans or New England? And I know you have Michael Thomas in New Orleans, and I know you have Julian Edelman in New England, but the rest of the guys around them, out of the backfield to White or to Kamara, are very shaky at times. Who would you feel would be a bigger impact move, the Saints or the Patriots getting a big-time receiver?
Patriots.
Yeah.
Patriots are absolutely playing with nobody as receivers. I mean, take a look at the receivers that are out there for 70% of the ball game. And other than Edelman, you wouldn't know anything about them. And they got Mohamed Sanu in last week, but he was only there for 3 days before they stick him in for a couple of patters just to get his feet wet. If he won't be effective until he goes through all the way through another bye, until they get a bye. Once he continues to go week in, week out, and then add a bye to that, I think he'll be ready to play then.
We're getting set to go for our Calverts in the Heights Pick'ems contest. As we said, congratulations yesterday to our winner. And Jeremy won those, and we'll go make sure to get you the $25 gift card there to Calverts in the Heights. We'll call you here after the show. We got your name and address right there. And, Coach, I'll make sure to get that in the right hands. I do love their roast beef po' boy, but I'll make sure that Jeremy gets that. But Coach is like, you can go anytime, Chad. But if you want right now the chance to win, all you have to do on our Facebook page, we're going to go and list the games for you. And we're going to list the spreads as well. You pick the games, and the tiebreaker for this week will be the matchup with Florida and Georgia. Big matchup right there, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. The spread right now currently sits at 6.5 points. You feel that's right, a little bit too high? Or to me, since it is a neutral field, that sort of, I would say, favors the Gators based on a spread maybe by 1 or 2 points, being close to their backyard. Coach, I would say in this game that personally I would set the line at about 4. For this, Georgia.
I think you're at 3 to 4.
Yeah,
is what I would think.
Yeah,
because there is no home field advantage. There is no home field advantage for Florida in this game.
No,
and people don't realize that.
But Coach, I would say though that Florida has proven themselves worthy of not having that slip-up game with Trask. I mean, the way they battled against South Carolina and won that game by double digits on the road, the way that they won at LSU, I mean, for three quarters almost, and then LSU won late into that ball game, and then the same way that they were just physical on the defensive line, that's going to be the importance of this game. Really for Florida, we know that they have a pretty consistent quarterback now. He's not flashy, but he just makes the right throws. P. Ryan and the offensive line is starting to get better, even though it had a rough patch at the beginning. But the thing that makes Florida better than other teams is that vaunted pass rush with Polite and the way that you see guys up there, not Polite, Zuniga and Grenard. And those two guys up front, and we'll have the Go Gators show coming up here, but with Zuniga and Grenard, Polite is in the NFL and really failed at the combine. But those guys are the ones that you really look out for, and they haven't been healthy the whole season. So that's going to be key.
Right. Well, Florida's going to get some people back this week.
Yes, they are.
Should be big for them. And listen, that Florida defense, you got to give them all credit. They've done a good job for 2 years now. I really think they've done a heck of a job coaching that defense.
And the games this week for our Pick'ems contest will be Florida versus Georgia, Miami versus Florida State, Oregon versus USC, and Ole Miss versus Auburn. In the NFL, some big matchups, the New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens, a huge game right there. We also have the matchup coming up here with two teams that are battling it out for a chance to win their division in Houston and Jacksonville. That should be intriguing. The Minnesota Vikings and Kansas City Chiefs, and also the matchup on Monday Night Football, a great rivalry right there between the Cowboys and the Giants, even though the Giants have had some tough games, but I think they have a pretty good future coming up here with Daniel Jones. They've lost a lot of close games, but, Coach, they've been competitive. They don't have a complete team yet, and I think, though, if you look at the way they play, Daniel Jones he pretty much is the epitome of a rookie that you can see developing into something one day. But right now, nobody expected him to go out there and save what was becoming a pretty bad team offensively with some of the injuries that they had. So Daniel Jones, I think, will be good. I think he's done a serviceable job. They've just lost a lot of ball games because they're not a complete team right now.
Well, they're not a complete team. They're not a good team. They're building. But I'll tell you one thing. They have a quarterback, and that's the first thing you have to start with. I have no doubt at all about Daniel Jones. I think given the team that he's playing with no help, and this what he's putting up and hanging in there and playing with, let me tell you, he's the one guy you'd want to just get experience right now, and he's the one guy that's keeping them relevant.
Yes.
So No, they got to be happy as can be with Jones.
Absolutely. So those are your Calverts in the Heights Pick'em contest. We'll put that on our Facebook page. You can start picking now. Also, 850-623-1330 is our Talk Football text line. 850-623-1330. Store it in your phone and make it easy. You're out and about or you're driving around getting ready for lunch. Go ahead and text us your picks right there on the game. If you go ahead and text the winner of Florida versus Georgia right there, having an opportunity, we will get you set to go. When we come back, we'll get to more on the big games coming up here in the NFL college football. It's all coming back with former NFL coach Kay Stevenson right here on Talk Football with Coach K.
Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Pros know there's a lot more to a tile job than tile. But here's something even pros don't know. The Home Depot's just lowered prices on tile essentials. Everything from James Hardie backer board as low as $8.98 each to 50-pound bags of VersaBond mortar starting at only $11.68. And know this, we won't be beaten on flooring prices. Guaranteed. New lower prices on tile essentials for the pro, only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Prices valid in select markets only.
How good are PXG clubs? Golf writers describe them as absolutely remarkable and the best golf clubs out there. Our customers call them insanely good and say they live up to the hype. So what are you waiting for? Step up your game and enjoy golf more than ever. Call 844-PLAY-PXG, 844-PLAY-PXG, or visit pxg.com to book your custom fitting. PXG. Nobody makes golf clubs the way we do. Period.
The Paul Feinbaum Show.
Everything you wanted to happen hasn't happened.
Oh my gosh, that's all any of y'all want to talk about is Alabama.
You're really not understanding the conversation, but anyway, we can move on.
Alabama's dynasty has just begun.
Hold on a second, Charles. Somebody wants to talk to you.
I don't want to talk that compelling moron.
He's nothing but a lame-headed old man.
2 till 5 every weekday afternoon. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You're out of your freaking mind, cowturd.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. Talk football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Coach, I was looking at some of the posters, by the way, too. We were setting up today. Today was spring cleaning, sort of like a story of my life. I guess you could say spring cleaning that I got to in November almost. But, that's sort of like Brittany, my wife will be like, you get this done? I'm like, yeah, we got 3 weeks, right? She's like, don't do it 2 weeks, 6 days in, please. I'm like, all right, with the gifts. And we know we have a number of Christmas gifts coming up here, too. So if you're thinking of something, Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range, look, that is an awesome gift that anybody would love, probably over the age of 18. I think you have to be a certain age to shoot down there. But, Coach, there's so many gifts from Calvert's in the Heights. Get a gift card. Heck, if you get in trouble, hire 11 Papantonio Law Firm. That might save you so you can have Christmas for your family. Or for the folks out there as well that do a great job each and every week, from our friends at Hill Kelly Dodge, Bob Tyler Toyota, really have some amazing sponsors across the board.
We do. We're very, very fortunate, and this community is very fortunate to have these people in our community, what they do in the way of charities and promoting other lifestyle advantages for us. Is tremendous.
Is Fred pleased with the way Florida is going right now in football? Do you feel like
yeah.
I think going in the right direction.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, truly, this is the first time, and I grew up in a Florida Gator household, so I see it, but this is the first time I can remember where truly not just the fans, the ones that get mad at you for saying Georgia Southern or things like that, but the fans that truly know the team, I think should feel confident right now that they are going in a direction now that they can actually compete and win the conference. I'm not saying that they are better than Alabama. I don't believe they are. I don't believe they're better than Georgia, and I think Georgia. But I think, though, that right now for the first time, they can play anybody in the country, and they could beat anybody in the country. And you couldn't have said that the last few seasons.
Yeah, but I understand the ultimate desire, if you will, is to do an Alabama. Okay?
Yeah. That's the bar.
Everybody wants to reach that bar.
Just like the Patriots in the NFL.
Exactly. So the bar is high. It's set very, very high.
Coach, looking right now at one of the things going on in the NFL, we've talked a lot about teams going out there and peaking at the right time. Do you believe that as a coach? Because we've seen this before where teams can make some trades. They can get, they can get rolling at the right time. But do you believe there are coaches out there, that there are GMs out there and locker rooms that will hold back playbooks, hold back calls, hold back maybe the opportunity to even go beyond what they are regularly, a possibility of a Bill Belichick to save things, knowing that the team is set up to be an 11 12-win team? Or are teams out there that you don't think any coach is going to hold anything back if he can win a game that week? Do you feel there are a lot of teams that start later into the season showcasing more of what they have in the arsenal?
No, I think that more depends on personnel, the development of personnel. And most good teams are, certainly in the National Football League, with 16 games, they're somewhat evolving through the course of the year. And people like to say, well, they're doing this, trying to reach the stretch run and be healthy and whatever. And you are to some extent. You want to consider health at a certain point during mid-season. Chad, you have to cut back on the work during the week. And things like that to save their legs. There's all types of research being done to help rejuvenate the muscles as quickly as possible, and so on and so forth. So I think all that happens, and I think there's a natural evolvement during the course of the season. But more depends on game-to-game preparation. And with the New England Patriots, people, even players have said that have come out of there, and coaches, you never know what they're going to be from one week to the next. They may have one offense this week, and next week be an entirely different offense from an I formation with a big fullback and tight end to 5 wides with nobody in the backfield. They can do that.
Coach, I want to ask you this question with a lot of athletes today. Jordan Reed, I think, is a perfect example. He was a former slash player at Florida, had an opportunity to play quarterback, grew a little, became a good tight end in the NFL, became a staple of the Washington Redskins offense, but suffered his 6th concussion and never really is now pretty much done with his career. But, Coach, if you look right now at athletes that have suffered 4, 5 concussions, serious detrimental concussions to the point, do you feel with the way today in the NFL that those guys can ever return? Because you suffered concussions. You played in the NFL, so I know you have. Did you feel when you came back after that concussion? It was different back in the day. The smelling salts, okay, get back on the field, moments like that. But do you feel, because you've lived that life, can you come back the same athlete after a few?
Tough question. It's really a tough question because a lot of it depends on a medical answer, which I'm not capable of giving.
Your position?
And your position, but also the degree of severity. And therein lies the real key. How do you judge? Is there some type of measurement for the degree of the concussion that you got? Everybody gets if you play football, you're going to get a blinker every now and then, But that's not necessarily a severe concussion. I don't know how to explain a severe concussion.
Yes.
I know that I know I've had some pretty good whippers. I know that, but not all that many. Everybody that plays the game, you're going to get some.
My best friend growing up, Laurent Robinson, he played for the Dallas Cowboys, Atlanta Falcons, and L.A. Rams. He really came on the scene. A couple injuries to Des Bryant. He became Tony Romo's favorite receiver for about a year and a half. And he went to Atlanta. Then he went to Jacksonville. He has a funny story, actually, with Bobby Petrino, that Bobby Petrino, they were all getting ready for practice, and they looked around the field at Atlanta, and he goes, "Where's Bobby? Where's Coach?" Where everybody's saying, "Where's Coach?" And they look up at the screens because they got all the TVs in the locker room, and one of the guys comes out and goes, "Hey, Bobby's out there," and he's doing Woo Pig Sooie on TV. Yeah. They're all getting ready for practice. He told nobody in that organization he was late. He literally, it was like the midnight jet getting on there and flew out. But so he got his 4th concussion, and he said he walked around that locker room because you got a lot of locker room with testosterone and egos around there, and if they can't see it, and Coach, as well, when you see a guy with a broken arm and a cast, that's one thing. Yeah. But when a guy says, "I can't play for your team," and he just got a huge contract, too. He got a 4-year, I think, $18 million deal, which was big for him. He was an Illinois State guy that nobody had heard of. He got his opportunity. And Jacksonville, he only played in 1 game before that 4th concussion. And they did, NFL.com did a story on him, Andrea Kramer, and he said he was in fear because he just had 2 kids. He's my age, 34, and he said he would go outside and he could not see outside because the sun hurt him so bad with migraines that he could not come back. And he said, "You know what? I love the game of football. It made my life. I was a guy that nobody believed in at Illinois State, but I lived the American dream." He said, "But physically, I knew if I played again, it could have been the last." So he made that decision.
Yeah, he needed to get. He made a good decision. He needed to get out. If you know yourself without any doubt that there's something different, there's some harm there, which I think you do. I think the person. Now, listen, most football players aren't going to tell a doctor, give a doctor all the symptoms maybe, because they don't want to lose their career.
And you're competitive. And I even thought back, too, where I'm going to bed last night, and I can't sleep a lot of times, so I'm sitting up and watching the late-night sports centers, and I'm watching the Breeze versus Bridgewater thing. And, Coach, all the things I'm saying I put my media cap on, and I start thinking of Drew Brees, and I start thinking of, hey, Bridgewater should play. You don't want to get hurt for that. But then I stop for a second, and last night I'm sitting on the couch, and it hit me. I go, man, when I was in high school, or when I was in college, you could not have dragged me off the field. They literally had to drag me off the field with a broken collarbone when I played at quarterback in high school, knowing because you're a competitor at nature. And for Drew Brees, he is the ultimate competitor. Tom Brady, the ultimate competitor. Yeah. So all the stuff we talk about, if Drew Brees wants to play and he's sitting there with his arms crossed for 5 weeks like that dog in the bacon commercial, he didn't know it's not bacon. Like he wants to get on that field. He's running out of time. So every minute he can play another football game is one that it's already a 1 week. You get football once a week, and he wants to be out there for 3 hours on a Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel bad because you can't tell a competitor sometimes that their career is over or stuff. And that's for Breeze. He wants to play football, and I don't blame him. And he's good enough to do it, and he proved it. when he went back out there.
Yeah, no question about that.
Coach, I want to who was the ultimate competitor that you ever played against? If you could just name one, coach or player. Is it Belichick? I mean, the one that you played with, what was the guy that no matter what, he was Vijay Singh, my brother told stories in golf, would be at the driving range at 4 a.m. and hit over 500 balls before anybody got on the course. And he actually won Golfer of the Year over Tiger Woods' year when you're winning 9 times on tour because, he went the extra mile to practice and do that. And golf is one of those. Heck, I used to be good at the game. If I picked up a club, probably getting some homeowners pissed that I break their window with a shank. But I'm telling you, Coach, you look right now, who was that ultimate competitor in the NFL to you? Guy that, more than anybody, was it a Brett Favre or a John Elway or some of the guys?
Well, there's always to me, the Manning comes to mind.
All of them, Archie and yeah.
But especially, I would say
you played with some of them, the Conrad Dobler guys, and
Dobler was an exception in other ways. He's a complete anomaly.
He would also hit you off the field if he was physical, right?
Yeah. But Joe Ferguson was a great worker, and there've been quite a few of them who just I would really hate to single out one because I was with so many good football players that just worked extremely hard.
Was it hard? NFL Hard Knocks has showcased some of it, but was it hard to cut an exceptional heart and a guy that talented, even though you knew there wasn't a spot for him on the roster? Were there nights where it was
extremely difficult? Probably the worst day of the year was that final cut-down day, where almost inevitably you're going to have one of your older guys who's been around and has played well for you, has given everything he's got, and now you're going to have to cut him.
And you had to do one-on-ones with each and every one of them?
Yeah. Some coaches don't. I think they're checking if they take that easy way out. But any coach that would have, for example, some guy they're paying minimum wage go cut a player, one of the most devastating things in that guy's life, they got to be kidding themselves.
Yeah.
There's only one guy that can answer the question, because they're all going to have a question. Why? Was there any way, or what could I have done? And you have to be able to look them in the eye and answer that question and tell them exactly why you've got to do what you got to do.
And I know you, Coach, you would have said, son, if I could do this right now, I would take your spot and get rid of all the kickers and punters. When we come back, we're going to get to more, not the punters, you need them, but when we come back, we'll get to more on all the big games coming up here this week, and we'll talk some more with former NFL coach Kay Stevenson. It's Talk Football with Coach K.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley. That was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. Talk football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with you. Coming up, it will be Go Gators. The former Florida Gator quarterback, Coach K. Stevenson, proud of his Gators and the way they've played this year. And now a big game against Georgia this week on the neutral site field right there. That's one of the only neutral site games, Coach, for so many reasons that I enjoy watching. What I mean is based on that you're not taking away a home game from some of these teams that you only have a few for your fans. That's the one. There's about one or two of them, like the Iron Bowl when it was played at Legion, but now they've moved it. But that's the only one right there that I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but you have to understand there's still one big negative for both teams, and that is from recruiting.
Yes.
You cannot have the number of recruits that you normally would at a home game. You can't have them.
Could they change that? I mean,
who knows?
They don't have time to do anything that makes sense like that. Coach, I want to get to Brian Kelly. This is a guy that obviously he's got the opportunity. When you coach Notre Dame, you coach in South Bend, but you also coach a team nationally because everywhere you go, there's Notre Dame fans. Any Irish person, pretty much, you pick Notre Dame and then your team that you go to college. And I'm telling you, in this case, they've had a great run over the last couple of years. Last year they went undefeated in the regular season, but this year, the way they just lost to Michigan, I know Jeff Waynes is down the hall, so we'll keep this down. But the way they lost to Michigan is it was just bad. I mean, that was an embarrassment for a lot of the people. They had their arms crossed watching the game. I saw a couple in public that were not happy to be there at all. And, Coach, at this point, a loss like that can quickly put you from going to a college football last year as an undefeated team to being on the hot seat. Do you see that with the situation right now with Brian Kelly and at Notre Dame?
Oh, no question. There's always that possibility with a team with a national profile like Notre Dame, no doubt about that. Now, that brings up another touchy scenario here with our good friend Urban Meyer. I'm sure he would like, other than Ohio State, I think Notre Dame. I thought he was going to go to Notre Dame when he left Florida and he went to Ohio State. But I would say there, if he doesn't go there, I still say that there's a real good chance that if something happens at Southern Cal, he may end up at Southern Cal.
Maybe he was making the play calls because I didn't know Michigan could score that many points under Jim Harbaugh's regime and that. So maybe Urban was actually helping them send some messages over there.
Could be.
to set it up so they could win that game so Notre Dame would fire Kelly and he'd get the job. I wouldn't put it past anything at this point.
I'm not saying Notre Dame is going to. I'm just saying the seat's going to get a little warm there, and I don't think it'll happen. Anything would happen. Another couple of years anyway.
Is Notre Dame to you, even down here it's Alabama in the titles, but I'm not talking about what Nick Saban has done. I'm not talking about regionalized. Coach, I'm talking about nationally because they've had a lot of years, Lou Holtz, and even before that with Davies coming there and Willingham and all the kids. But is Notre Dame the best job to have in college football?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think it's a great job. Because of that national base that they have. Stop and think about it now. If the better teams in the country didn't have a conference to be a part of, they'd be lost. And right now, especially with what's at stake, all that's at stake, Notre Dame really doesn't care. I mean, they've got their basketball team and their baseball team and the minor sports in the ACC, but they're independent because they can be, and because they have their own television network. NBC does the home games for Notre Dame. So, and they do have a national base to recruit from. You just think about every Catholic school in the country. If they have a player, the good Padre head of that school is getting word to Notre Dame. Do you want me to help you? So it's a wonderful recruiting situation and a lot of tradition. That's the main thing, just tradition. Wonderful school. So they got a lot of things going for them. But to answer your question, is it the best coaching job in the country? I would not say it is. It's a good one, a very good one. But I think now more so it's getting to be who are we going to be playing? Where do we have the best shot to win a national championship?
I wouldn't put it past somebody to change out the King James right there and say, if you pick Michigan over Notre Dame or USC over Notre Dame, kids, you're not going to get to heaven right there. But looking at the other matchups with what's going on right now in college football with LSU and Alabama. Now, Nick's tired of asking the question about Tua, and I don't blame him at this point. I mean, how many times can you beat this horse where it's just going to be recovery? But at this process right now, is there a sign or is there something that the fans can get excited about to see him back? Because he needs to put some weight and get out there and practice into game mode. Is that the first step? Where will Tua be? Because I've had this injury too, Coach. But at this point, Tua is doing nothing but resting and getting ready. What time frame would you put with him putting some weight on that ankle to be ready to go for the game against LSU in 2 weeks?
I personally, I'm going to do exactly what
Nick Saban,
what the doctors say to do, and Nick is too. I'm sure he's going to do exactly what the doctors say. My best guess is don't put any weight on it until the last possible moment. Now, this is totally different. We're talking about a different animal. Had he the same injury with the same treatment that you got years ago, there's no way he'd be playing for the rest of the year because those high ankle sprains stay with you. Since it is his non-plant foot, which is important, his left foot is his plant foot. This is the right one now. Mm-hmm. And he's got the boot on it. You can bet he's doing rehab now. I'm sure they've got him in all types of pools and everything else doing rehab and doing the electrical stimulus and so on. With it, take the boot off and then put the boot back on for him to move around with. As to when he'll be back, I don't know. I know Saban said something about maybe he would be back the middle of this week, which would be like tomorrow. I can't see that happening.
I'll tell you what, he'll be walking better on Saturday on it than he will on Sunday with B12, lidocaine, cortisone shots, and making sure to get him ready for the – is there a rule on how much in college compared – I don't know the semantics of – I know that when people get hurt a lot, they'll get back there, they'll make sure that you're ready to go. But is there a rule on how much you can have from going back to the training room during college football games? No.
Well, sure. I mean, there's certain things that are prohibited. They can't touch or get around, even to the extent that there are certain drugs that you take for flu or cold that kids are given that are against the rules. And if you take them, you're out. So they got to be careful with that. Now they can, depending, again, doctor, can't say that enough. Mm-hmm. They have to make all the decisions. And if they feel that there is a way that they can lessen the pain possibilities without compromising for any further injury, I think that's within the rules. But that would be certainly something that would be, up to them.
When we come back, we'll talk some more. The big game's coming up here this weekend. Happy Tuesday here on Talk Football with Coach K.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Dude, it's game day, and I'm fired up that football is back.
I know, but I'm bummed they don't show my favorite team on TV around here.
All right, well, what about that place Calvert's? They're a really cool English pub-style restaurant, and they have a really good drink menu.
Yeah, but what about the game?
Don't worry, they have the NFL Sunday ticket and plenty of TVs, so we can watch any game that we want.
Ooh, I just looked at the menu, and that Abbey Road burger is calling my name.
Calvert's in the Heights Restaurant and Bar, 3102 East Cervani Street, calvertsintheheights.com.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range, Highway 29 in Car City.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
The key on offense is going to be whether Franks can come back and duplicate what he did in the last 4 games.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola is your home to UWF Argos football. Catch every game, home or away, on Pensacola's home for local sports. ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back. Talk football with Coach K right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. That was supposed to be ESPN NFL primetime music. It sounds more like we're dancing into some Disney movie right here, but yeah, there it is. I'm seeing right there. Welcome back here to the show. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. You've got the NFL trade deadline coming up, a little more in the news these days. Le'Veon Bell, he's a guy that is in the news about the possibility of a trade. Coach, do you think he can make the type of impact, and he is still the kind of guy, because he's looked at in the public as an elite player, but do you feel he still can make a huge impact and be an elite player on a good team right now?
I don't know. That's a great question. Listen, the guy's, he's sitting there with the Jets. Now, he's had many chances to become that impact player with the Jets to the extent of what he could do, but he hasn't really made any big impact on the Jets offense. I think he was a part of the offense that he was with before, and I think that would be the same. Be a good, serviceable running back. Do I think that he's I don't know that he's a 1,000-yard back anymore. Certainly a 1,200, 1,300-yard back anymore.
They're going the other way, too. Osemele is a guy that's now done. You got C.J. Mosley, who's now officially out 5 to 6 weeks, and they just traded Leonard Williams. You know that's the first time ever, by the way, Coach, that the New York Jets have traded with the New York Giants in the history of the NFL.
No, I didn't know that, but I can imagine it's true. Yeah.
They don't like each other when it comes to trading a guy in the same town and putting on another jersey right there. But Leonard Williams is now the guy that is heading out to the New York Giants. And I'll tell you what, look, he has been a disappointment to where he came out of college as a top 5 pick. But Leonard Williams, look, he was the only bright spot in that game I watched against the Patriots. He was putting pressure on Tom Brady almost every play. And outside of that, there was nothing good to be excited about if you were a Jets fan. You were down 33-0. But he made some good plays.
A change of scenery sometimes with a guy who's got potential. Not potential, I hate that word. Who's got talent and gets a change of scenery. It could be the coaches. Could be other fellow players on the football team. Just the overall attitude of the organization. It can wake him up, and he could be a heck of a player.
Why is the game going away from? I always thought growing up watching Grady Jackson or watching Jerry Ball for the Detroit Lions or watching guys like Ted Washington, what you had with Tony Siragusa and Sam Adams was the perfect example in Baltimore. And then what we had in Vince Wilfork for so long for the Patriots. Coach, you look at those guys, you don't see the almost pushing 400 pounds being nice on the cards on the back of their pickup cards that you get, the Donruss cards that say 325, and you laugh because you know the guy weighs that in his left thigh. Coach, those guys seem like they're not part of the NFL, and I know it's a speed game and it's all about the outside, but frankly, the impact of the presence of a guy that takes up 2 linemen was huge, and now you're not seeing that type of game anymore.
Chad, good question, but I think there's some still there, and I think there are more coming. Just keep in mind, and I can't call their names right now, but there's some of these kids that have come in that weighed every bit as much as those guys you're talking about. They're just taller. They're reapportioned. Okay, they don't have the same looks.
Their diet is a little different because they got people working with them a little
just
more.
Their stature.
Yeah.
They may be 3 or 4 inches taller than those kids, and they're shaped a little differently. But they're big, and they're dirt movers in there.
Like a Calais Campbell, his size, a freak size. I mean, he's
Yeah.
6'8", 310 pounds out there for Jacksonville. There's a lot of those kind of guys. The one coming out here from right now, Raekwon Davis over there from Alabama is one that is 6'7", 320-pound kind of guy. And those are scary guys out on the football field. But you got to be able to play, and you got to fit into the system as well. Coach, Baker Mayfield, I know how you feel. We only got about a few seconds here, but will he finish out the season as the starting quarterback real quick?
Good question. I really listen. I think so, but I think he's got to put some things together, and coaches have to get on in.
There's a better chance than Freddie Kitchens, sadly, of doing that.
Yeah,
sadly. Coach, enjoyed today's show.
Enjoyed it.
All right. For Coach Kay Stevenson, I'm Chad Brillante. Coming up, go Gators, as the former Florida Gator quarterback, giving us some time. Thanks again for joining us.
Football season has arrived, and ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM 99.1 FM is where the action is. Bringing your high school football every Friday night, UWF football on Saturdays, and the NFL on Sundays. If you would like to partner with ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, give us a call at 262-6000.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. I'm Davis Allen with your sports headlines. In Monday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers took down the winless Miami Dolphins after the Miami Dolphins took a 14-0 lead, but then the Pittsburgh Steelers scored 27 unanswered points, winning the game 27-14. Mason Rudolph threw 2 touchdowns and James Conner rushed for 145 yards and scored as the Pittsburgh Steelers improved to 3-4 on the season. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 2 touchdowns in defeat. The Dolphins are now 0-7 on the year. After a travel day, the World Series resumes tonight in Houston as the Houston Astros host the Washington Nationals in Game 6. Justin Verlander will oppose Steven Strasburg. The home team has lost all 5 games, with Houston winning 3 straight in D.C. to take a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 series matchup. The Chicago Cubs and the Philadelphia Phillies both introduced their new managers. The Cubs held a press conference on Monday for new skipper and former catcher David Ross, who replaces the fired Joe Madden. He had been working as a special assistant with the team. The Philadelphia Phillies also introduced former Yankees manager Joe Girardi, who takes over in Philadelphia for the fired Gabe Kapler. In the NFL, the New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick is leaving the door open to coach into his 70s. The 67-year-old previously said that he would not do that, but now tells WEEI Radio in Boston that he's not sure that's still an accurate statement. Belichick says that now he's getting closer to that age. He's not sure. He joined Don Shula and George Halas in the 300-win club on Sunday. And defensive lineman Leonard Williams will be playing in the same stadium, just for a different team. ESPN reports that the Giants have acquired former first-round draft pick from the Jets for a third-round draft pick next season and a fifth-rounder in 2021. The Jets will also pick up the tab for $4 of the $6 million left on Williams' salary this season. I'm Davis Allen with your sports headlines for ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Stephen A. Smith here. If you're like me, you have a mortgage and a family who depends on your income, then you need to protect the ones you love with life insurance. Life insurance can help pay off a mortgage or send the kids to college. it's peace of mind. Think you can afford it? Chances are Select Quote can help you get it for less than $1 a day. Select Quote comparison shops up to 10 highly rated companies, including Prudential, Banner Life, and Mutual of Omaha, and others, to find you the company with the best rates. For example, Select Quote could find a 35-year-old man a $500,000 policy for under $21 a month. That's less than $1 a day. Select Quote's breakthrough technology allows them to quickly match you with the best insurance company to find your best policy. Plus, quotes are free. Start protecting your family today. Call Select Quote at 1-800-601-6992. That's 1-800-601-6992. Or go to selectquote.com/Smith.
Get full details in the example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Pensacola Beach isn't just a sun-soaked white sand paradise. It's also the best dance floor in 50 states. Every Tuesday night, the stage near the beach mall comes alive with great music you know and love. Bands on the Beach are free shows every Tuesday through October, and they're brought to you by the Santa Rosa Island Authority. Later tonight, it's Terry Akins and Teddy Lehman, better known as Jake and Elwood, the Emerald Coast Blues Brothers, plus the movie authentic Bluesmobile on hand at Bands on the Beach. Join us for live music every Tuesday night at 7 for Bands on the Beach.
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
And welcome back to Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with you here, getting set to go for another fun day. I don't know. Coach K. Stevenson joining us, Florida Gator quarterback, kind enough to make time for us after his show. Coach, I don't know, do the Gators, they have a game this week? Anything? I think I've heard a few things about this one, the Florida-Georgia matchup.
Big week.
Pretty big week right here. And even if you don't go into the game, it's a pretty big week. It really is the most fun that I've had. I went to an Auburn and Alabama game, but I was covering it. So I was professionally dressed and sat in the quiet booth. I found that out the hard way my first time ever when I sat up there where you can't root for a team. You know, in the media, you got to be quiet, and everybody else, a lot of people are typing stories on deadlines for the newspaper, so you can't root or anything. And I remember sitting through some double overtime games as a fan of teams I was covering, and I just had to sit there. So I'd leave and go down and hang out with the stands and with the student section and jump around. But Florida-Georgia was one of those kind of matchups that I enjoyed every minute of it. And this is a game that I know a lot of fans are making the trip. Was talking today. Jeffrey D. will be heading down to the game with Hal George. A lot of good Florida alumni are making that trip down there, taking their RVs, and they're heading out. And, Coach, this is a huge week, and it's a huge week for Florida's future because for the first time in a while, there are a lot of kids that are sitting there looking at whether it's going to be Georgia, whether it's going to be Florida, a Florida State, and saying, you know what? The Gators go out and win this game. That's some recruiting rights right there. And this is a big-time game this week for many more reasons than just the game itself.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's so much at stake here. We're talking about everything from a possible, and believe me now, listen, I emphasize the word possible. Whoever wins this football game is going to have the inside track to play in the SEC championship game. If such a big word, if they should happen to win that football game, they would then be in the party of four. And if they should happen to win two games there, they're national champions.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is a long shot, and it's a big if. But they're still a player. Let's put it that way. They're a player in the biggest stakes we have in this country for college football. What more could you ask at this point? I mean, how many kids right now are totally out of it? How many fan bases have no sight? It's even no sight of it in years to come. And so it's gives some importance, gives you some idea of the importance and the magnitude of this particular game. And it just it means a whole lot. And as you said, then the follow-up to that would be, which is huge, would be the recruiting value of this game, and so on. It goes on and on and on. Endowments and you name it, they're all there.
Coach, looking right now at the Florida Gators and the way that they've played, they get set for this game. They come in as a 6.5-point underdog to Georgia. I'm sure that line will move here soon. But it looks like with Jonathan Grenard and also having a couple of these guys back, that is huge because that was one of the big differences when he was hurt. You could tell they weren't the same. You got C.J. Henderson that came back a few weeks ago. This team defense has been one that really quickly out of that Miami game that the entire country, the entire world who were football fans was watching based on that. It was the only game. They called it week 0. Kids don't do that math, but it was week 0 because it was the only game on. And in that matchup, they went out there, they won, but it was an embarrassing football game in many regards. The defensive line was not, though. Everybody left the game saying, wow, this Florida team has a very good defensive front. And they got hurt. They got banged up. But Zuniga, Grenard, some of these guys coming back. And that's going to be key because Jake Fromm doesn't have the same weapons. So the routes that are being run by Georgia receivers are not as quick cut breaks to get open. He's having to do more work to find open receivers. And with that will come more sacks.
You're exactly right. The biggest change in that Georgia football team was they lost all 4 receivers.
Top 4 of them, yeah.
The top 4. And they haven't been able to replace the talent that they lost at the receiver position, and it certainly has told on them. Now, especially in this game against Florida, for exactly the reason you're talking about, that they get up on them. I mean, I think it looks to me that they're capable of even playing tight man-to-man coverage. And if they do that with the ability to get on the quarterback with that defensive line, yeah, it's going to change the game. May create some turnovers there too. Not only sacks, but some turnovers when you have to throw the football. You get antsy feet and whatever. But anyway, it's going to be interesting, and that Florida defense is really, really playing well.
Yeah, they're getting set to go 7-1 on the season, 4-1 in conference play, and coming in number 6 in the nation, and better than Georgia. Nobody, I thought, at this point, even Gator fans, would expect going into this game, starting off in November, kicking off right after Halloween right there, that the Florida Gators, Coach, would be ahead of Georgia in the polls, but that's where they stand.
Yeah, and I think it's justified. I really do. So anyway, we're gonna see what happens this week. It's a huge football game, and it also there's a lot at stake here which we haven't mentioned, Chad, and which creates even more competition, and that is the true rivalry of this game, traditional rivalry, which something most games don't have. Just name them across the country. You can name quite a few, but you can't name all that many. Mm-hmm. The natural rivalry that this game has is one of the tops.
It means so much more than just the game itself. Yeah. I mean, Florida-Tennessee, that's a game that people talk about, but Florida versus Tennessee, for the most part, does not change the fact of some of those kids' decisions on where they go to college. It might in the early 90s, but not now. Florida, Georgia, you have kids grow up in Kennesaw, they grow up in Jacksonville, they grow up in Valdosta, and areas like that their families are divided. They're split. They're very similar to the way Florida and Florida State has it as well, but that's not even within the same conference. Looking at the matchup coming up here itself, if Florida is to win this game, Coach, do you see this being with Kyle Trask? Because they played in a couple games here lately, 38-27. I don't think anybody would have thought at one point a Will Muschamp team would be in a shootout type ball game. You had LSU versus Florida, the way that they got up there in points, where the game got into 42-28. Florida's playing in higher scoring games. Last year they had to win those physical 19-17 type grinded out kind of games. Now they're winning even games that are getting into the 30s, into the 40s. Do you see this game being like that, or do you think it's going to be more of a physical type of matchup?
My guess is it's going to be more of a physical type matchup. I really think both defenses will play well, and I like Trask. I really do. I think Trask is going to play well. And the games that you're mentioning right now and the points that Florida has scored, plus keeping the ball 16 minutes more than LSU. Now think about that. That's over a quarter. They kept the ball like they played a whole quarter that LSU didn't show up. So no, I think it's going to be a very good tight football game. I don't think it'll be a 6-3 or 6-0 ball game. Both teams will score some points because they're good enough and both have good enough quarterbacks. But it's on the surface, it's going to be a defensive game, I think.
Gus Malzahn lost to both teams. They were competitive against both teams, but Auburn lost to Florida and they also lost to LSU. After the game, Gus Malzahn said that he felt like the Florida atmosphere was a tougher, more hostile crowd. And that's his opinion. I mean, LSU has been ranked by many people as the toughest place in the nation to play at. But Gus Malzahn said that it was a tougher, more hostile crowd at Florida than it was the week at LSU. Can you see that?
Well, I guess if Gus said it, it's so.
He said play calling, the way he was. I mean,
for Auburn, they have a great crowd, great game atmosphere at Florida, and I think that's one thing Mullen tried to do early when he got there was build those crowds back up because they had fallen off some with the production of the football team. But he tried to build those crowds back up and build that game type atmosphere back to where it was.
Well, let's look at the semantics of the game too, Coach. You had Florida. This was their hype game. It was College game day. This was a game that they were proving to having the opportunity of the world to say, hey, if we win this game, it's one of these top 10 showdowns. It was at their home for game day. I know they went to LSU the next week, and that sort of proves the point is Florida did everything. That was their biggest game. Everybody that was a Gator fan was going to that game against Auburn. Now, for the next week against LSU, that LSU game was the game against Florida where everybody, game day was there. They were out there. They partied. And so a lot of them were so just, partied out, where today with not only the ticket prices, with the travel, not every fan go to every game. So they were probably partied out with Florida. Not too many people said, hey, in a couple of weeks, we're definitely going to Auburn, knowing that the next game after that was going to be a bye week in Alabama. So Auburn game against LSU was really sandwiched in between an incredible matchup right there against Florida on game day and also the matchup that they had in Alabama a couple weeks that everybody's looking ahead to, the 1-2. So Auburn the way that game fell into place, LSU, that wasn't their primetime matchup, where Florida, that was the primetime matchup that they needed for their fans. So, I mean, that
good point. That's a good point. That was a sandwich game for them, no doubt about that. And I thought LSU, quite frankly, and we've said this before, Auburn played them well, but there wasn't that much difference in the score, a very tight score. But to me, from the time they kicked off the football to the time the final whistle blew, LSU was a better football team than Auburn.
Yeah, you could bet your sweet behind that if they played that Alabama game at LSU, it'd be a little more rowdy than it was against Auburn. I'm just saying that 1-2 matchup, LSU might be a little bit louder in Death Valley coming up here in that one. So Gus, whatever he wants to say, they lost the football game. LSU comes out victorious. We'll talk some more on those games coming up here. Coach, always appreciate you sitting in all the time, and looking forward to doing it again tomorrow with Talk Football. All right. Okay, we'll stay and we'll talk with Coach K. Stevenson. One more segment, break down some of the game, and come back for more right here. It's Go Gators on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Brought to you by the Holman Law Firm.
A change in season means it's time to check your tires, and Goodyear Auto Service has just what you need to make this fall great. Think weekend getaways, scenic drives, and great deals, like up to $225 in savings this month. That's $75 in instant savings when you purchase and install a set of 4 new Goodyear or Dunlop tires, plus up to $150 back on select tires by online or mail-in rebate when you use your Goodyear credit card. But hurry, this offer ends October 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Visit GoodyearAutoservice.com to learn more.
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
The great thing about facts, they're proven. Like the fact that crude oil contains impurities, or that base oil made from natural gas is 99.5% free of impurities. And the fact that Pennzoil is the first synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. It gives you unbeatable engine protection. The proof is in the Pennzoil. Based on Sequence 4A wear test using SAE 5W30. Ask for it at Jiffy Lube.
Football season never ends on Talk Football with Coach K.
Stidham is tearing it up at New England. He may well be the incumbent to Tom Brady there.
Former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Coach K brings his expertise as he breaks down the game, the players, the coaches, and the front office. Plus, high-profile interviews from the biggest names in football. Talk Football with Coach K every weekday from noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back. Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola every single Tuesday. If you're a Gator fan out there and want to be part of the show, look, great hype time right now. You beat Georgia, heck, get your business right there as one of the lead sponsors of the show. You can go ahead and text us at 850-623-1330. It's 850-623-1330 on our Go Gators text line. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put your name and your number, and we'll go ahead, myself and everybody here, our folks, Kevin Davis, will get back to you here with an opportunity to be one of the proud sponsors for really not much at all, to be an opportunity to get your name heard each and every Tuesday afternoon for a chance to watch your team go to the championship. Looking at the matchups going on right now in football, I think, Coach, this one this week to me is the biggest game. I know there is next week LSU Alabama that if you say that's not the biggest game, you're just either ignorant to college football or you live in a different city that you don't care about the SEC. But if this is a case where Florida and Georgia, the impact of this game truly is, in a way, the LSU-Alabama game of the East. I mean, you think about it this way. Georgia and Florida, the winner of this game, now that Missouri has fallen off, they lost to Kentucky. They're in disarray. Now their coach is on the hot seat. You can't be – I mean, Kentucky was down to their third-string quarterback. You had a team that was a 11-point favorite on the road, and they go out and lose. So Missouri has dropped off. You have a team in South Carolina that's not playing great football. They lost to Tennessee last week. So it's really Florida, Georgia, and everybody else. Then LSU and Alabama have solidified themselves as Texas A&M has faded back. Auburn now has lost 2 games. To me, this is the matchup this week where it's just as big for the East as what LSU and Alabama is for the West.
Well, there's no doubt about that. It just so happens that the Alabama-LSU game, to be honest, is equivalent to the de facto national championship game. You're talking about number 1 and number 2.
Number 1 and number 2 in the Heisman vote right now, too.
And I don't know. I don't know that that'll change, even if they get into the playoffs. That might still be the national championship game, Alabama and LSU. So I don't want to overplay it, but I see that as being the college game, no doubt about it. Now, this Georgia-Florida game, not to diminish any importance of that game, because you're exactly right. That is the for the East. And let me tell you, when you get in the SEC championship game in Atlanta, it's on a neutral field, and either Georgia or Florida will be a representative foe for Alabama or LSU. Either one they're gonna play a heck of a football team. So so much at stake. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's very exciting right now. The winner of this Florida-Georgia game lines themselves up with a good opportunity to not only get to that conference championship, but a chance at redemption in a lot of ways. You'll have Florida that if they get there, they'll get a chance, possibility at LSU, the possibility, or at Alabama. And in this case, Georgia will have a chance to get ready at redemption against an Alabama from last year, or LSU that they lost to in a game that set them back. Because if they don't lose to LSU last year, then I think Georgia gets that spot, or would have had a hard argument to be left out with an undefeated Georgia who lost that football game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
the way Georgia lost last year, they lost to Alabama in a conference championship that most people said they played a better football game. They just, at the end, they started to try to play not to lose, and Alabama came back and won in the fourth quarter. Georgia lost that, and they lost a close game to LSU in Baton Rouge. If they don't lose that game to LSU in Baton Rouge, Georgia is they probably are still going to get in based on that they were undefeated during the regular season and lost by just a few points to Alabama in that championship game. It would have been hard.
I agree with you.
So there's redemption on all ends to this, and it's exciting right now, and a lot of football left. Looking at the game itself with Florida, if I'd ask you today, who's playing better, Kyle Trask at quarterback or Jake Fromm, who are you taking?
Well, I like them both. As I've said, so but I may try to skirt out of this. And
yes,
but I like them, but I think you'd have to say at this point, and you'd have to look at the total amount of work that Fromm has done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to give Jake Fromm, for what he's done from day one. Now Trask is really playing well, and he's not going to give up too much at all, if anything, in this ball game. It's going to be interesting.
Very interesting right here, and the opportunity for both these guys. Look, both of them have confidence where it wasn't there, and that question at the beginning of the season would have been asinine to ask somebody, and now it actually. And I would agree. I would take Fromm right now, but. Trask has done nothing but prove himself each and every week to get better. And it wasn't his fault they lost LSU. He took their team on 4 different drives of more than double-digit plays and over 70 yards in that game that ate up 6 minutes of the clock.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as a coach, that's what you want, is to get your defense rested, 6-7-minute drives, 10 plays, get everybody involved, get the confidence up, and get your defense rested. The defense just couldn't stop Joe Burrow, as nobody really has figured that out this year, and maybe won't. So we'll see at this point. Looking at the Florida Gators, we've talked about some of their key players and some of the guys they will get. It looks like Jonathan Grenard back, and also with Grenard back, and also the opportunity for Zuniga and C.J. Henderson. It looks like a good chance. But Zuniga has missed 4 of the last 5 games because of an ankle injury. But at this point, you're trying to get these guys ready to go and playing. And I'm telling you, it's going to be really, really tough, though. As the game nears, one of the most discussed stories is the return of Grenard and fellow Gator defensive lineman Zuniga. So to have them both back in this one is going to be really huge to put the pressure on a quarterback that's been making big plays in Jake Fromm.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, another measuring stick here for this ball game is both these coaches. You look at always take into consideration when you look at a big ball game, coaches, quarterbacks, and defense, and so on, and then we look at some of the stats and the other talented players on this football team. But when you look at these two coaches, you're looking at 2 outstanding coaches both are, okay? And one measuring stick with Mullen is look at what he did at Mississippi State. Overall, day one he was there till the day he left. Even getting them to number one in the country for a couple of weeks during the season, a couple of seasons ago. And then they bring in the high-powered, big reputation Joe from Penn State, and look at what he's done. And he's been a disappointment for sure.
Yes.
And in fact, he's on the hot seat there. So that gives you some idea when you start putting a value on the coaching for each team. You're going to see two teams that are exceptionally well coached. And why do you think Florida is paying their defensive coordinator over $1 million a year? That defense is playing extremely well.
It is, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. They're getting better. They're getting physical. And remember, Todd Grantham, too, is a guy that has been with a lot of good defenses. He came over, and you know what's even better is Todd Grantham is the kind of guy that he actually recruited a lot of these guys and some of the guys that are on this Georgia defense. Because some of these seniors, Grantham was the defensive coordinator for the Georgia Bulldogs, and then he went to Louisville, and then he went over after that. And remember, he's the guy that got Jonathan Grenard to come over because he was his coach at Louisville and had a chance to work with him. So he's been there, and that does help. It does help to know guys that you recruited because you've studied them, you know their moves, I mean, there are so many things. Look, a defensive lineman can only do so many things as part of his job. However, you know that he's the kind of guy on third down that is going to make that one move that he saved in the bank, where it's at the old Reggie White swim move, or the ones that and Grantham knows some of these guys out there. So that's huge, and it will be really big in this one. Looking right now, Georgia does have a huge offensive line. They've been building that offensive line over the years. One of the reasons they have the number one recruiting class, or up there with Alabama over the last couple of seasons, this offensive line, and those guys are huge. They're eating well in Athens right now. All these guys are huge, but Georgia's line is huge. That's like when you meet somebody that's 6'5" and your mom or dad like that's a tall man, and then you meet a 7'3" guy and you're like, all right, that's Georgia. I mean, the guys are big on the line, but Georgia's line is insanely big. I've seen some of those guys, and some of the biggest linemen I've ever seen in the game and today. But looking at the matchup here, Coach. I look right now at this matchup here for what they're going to do in this matchup. And if Georgia loses this game, though, all of a sudden things quickly change from the mindset. Are you going to see Jake Fromm and the possibility of coming back to college, or is he very similar to Tua? If he's ready, it's going to be really hard to pass on the opportunities he's going to have.
I think it's going to be hard for him to pass up. My guess is that he will enter the draft. I feel pretty good in saying that. Now, there's always the possibility that he'll come back. Nobody would have thought Herbert was going to come back this year at Oregon, but he made the decision to come back and stay there, even though he was eligible for the draft, and by some thought he would have been the first quarterback to go last year. So, having said that, there's always that possibility, good possibility as well, because Fromm is, I'm sure he's a very bright, conscientious young man who probably he's from Georgia, from Macon, Georgia there. I'm sure he has a tremendous affection for his alma mater and for the University of Georgia. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. My guess is that he can't turn down that opportunity because he is going to be. I'm not sure where he'll be projected, but he could be a late first round pick.
I would if I'm. I mean, he's good, but DeAndre Swift is a guy I would like on my team. If you look at the track record and pedigree, and I know it's irrelevant to the fact of this year's team, but just Georgia running backs in general in the NFL. Have had it seems all across the board. What Sony Michel's doing in New England, Chubb it's not his fault. He's doing some big things out in Cleveland. Before that, all the years from Garrison Hurst to Terrell Davis. They've had lists and lists of great running backs. And I think this would be one as well. DeAndre Swift he's that perfect hybrid kind of guy for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
That Kamara type player that can catch the ball to the backfield. That's the way the NFL is going. The bruisers, the 6'2", very rare you're going to get a Derrick Henry, who's a freak, 245 pounder that plays in the NFL today. It's all about those scat backs, the guys out of the back, and I think you're gonna see DeAndre Swift have that chance. Looking at from what you've seen though from on the other side though, and in the running game that really for Florida has been one that has had a couple games where they've taken off and really gone to the next level. But when you look right now at Florida's running game, have you been impressed with the way that they've been able to make the big plays, the big runs, pull away from games, and make where the staple of Florida running backs has been pretty solid across the board to me this year so far?
Well, the Florida running, I'm going to have to.
And LaMichael P. Ryan and the way he's playing.
Yeah. I think P. Ryan is a good example of he can give you the big play, the big chunk yardage, all the ways very quick, very fast, and can go all the way. But does he give you, if he's going to be in there and be your gutted out back and run the ball 25, 27, 28 times and give you a lot of yardage out of that if he's not racking up a big play. I think most of the yardage they've gotten, if you think back, Chad, has come off big play where they've broken tackles and gotten an inch here, an inch there, and turned it in with speed to a big play. Not Alan Amici, a big back type, grinded out 4 and 5 and 6 yards at a time with maybe a 15-yarder here and there. They're all or nothing. So, how does that fit? I don't know. That's going to be interesting as to how Georgia. You can bet one thing: Georgia's going to try to stop the run, not let them have the big play, and they're going to put the pressure on the quarterback. I would, but basically, and not worry about how he's played. He's a first-year guy. He's never played before. I would put all the pressure on him. Beat us if you can.
Coach, yeah, you're right. I think that Florida doesn't need to try to go out there and try to out-duel a team like Georgia. Over the past few years, all they need to do is not beat themselves. Every year before with Franks, if you go back and look at the games, they were driving, they were physical, the athletes were up. They're all up for this game. Everybody in the stands but you would see Felipe Franks. To me, it was like a robot. 3-step drop, look to your left, and throw. And it didn't matter if there was a Georgia guy standing right there, he was going to still throw it. I mean, last year, that was the game that the eyes looked like Bugs Bunny. When that moment when he threw it directly to the Georgia player. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday. He threw it right to the Georgia player's chest, and the guy was standing right in front of him. They're wearing red, you're wearing white or blue, or you can't be missing that guy. And Frank's and he's 6'6", he has no excuse to see over his line. Coach, no excuse like when you changed the rule in the NFL when they were all wearing white helmets across the board none of that. Like it just was, those plays Trask is eliminated from the game and gets the defense not feeling like crap. We might be back out on the field in 30 seconds.
Now, let me say this, too. Having said what I just said about how they're going to play Florida and put the pressure on Trask, other teams have done that also. They're not dummies. They've been doing it also, and it hasn't worked. Mm-hmm. Okay, Trask has been up for the task. There's no doubt about it. And he's done an outstanding job. So I think that's where Georgia is going to put the pressure. Thank goodness they've got a guy like him who can take the pressure and still perform because he's had to do it. He's already seasoned. He's had to do it at Auburn. He's had to do it at LSU. You can bet on it, and other teams as well.
It's a good headline in the paper. Trask up for the task. I like that right there, Coach. Yeah. I appreciate your time as always, Coach. Looking forward to doing this again tomorrow.
You bet.
Appreciate
Good to
it.
be with you.
For Coach K. Stevenson, we're coming back for Our next segment here on Go Gators, the former Florida Gator quarterback breaking down the big plays and the big game coming up here against the Georgia Bulldogs. When we come back, we'll hear from Coach Dan Mullen, from Coach Kyle Trask, and we'll look at the preview from Week 8 around the NFL, some of the big-time Gators that stepped up and really made an impact, including one guy for Who Dat Nation right there, 7-0, hashtag Who Dat. C.J. Gardner-Johnson coming through with some big plays and getting a chance to play last week in the 31-9 win against the Arizona Cardinals. We're coming back for more right here on Go Gators, brought to you by the Holman Law Firm.
Do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacid stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day will last a full 24 hours with zero heartburn. Kick your antacid habit. It's possible with Prilosec OTC.
Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
There's a lot going on right now, and broadcasters are on the ground covering all of it, bringing you the weather, the traffic, and breaking news, all while entertaining you 24 hours a day. Someone needs to tell you what's going on around the world and in our hometowns, and that someone is us. We are free radio. We are always there. We are broadcasters. Visit wearebroadcasters.com or text radio to 52886 to learn more. Furnished by NAB and this station.
Here are the ESPN Pensacola 94.5 contest rules. You can win one prize per household per contest in any 30-day period, unless specified by individual contest rules. All prizes on ESPN Pensacola 94.5 are non-transferable, non-redeemable in cash, nor exchangeable for any other prize. ESPN Pensacola 94.5 prizes must be redeemed within a 30-day period of winning, and you must be 18 years of age or older to win. For a complete list of rules, visit ESPNpensacola.com.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back, Go Gators, right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. It's a huge week. Many of you already heading out there to have some fun for the Florida-Georgia game right there. Typed in Florida-Georgia line on the game and got, "Baby, I'm a song and making me want to..." Start breaking down that song, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. It's a 6.5 point spread, by the way. Georgia, I think that's too high, too. If I had to look at the game, I would have my windows down and cruising to take the Gators in this one. I do think the Gators are going to cover that. I don't know if they win the game. I'm going to make my pick based on the health and talking to some of the guys, Zach Albaverdi and a lot of the friends over there, Scott Carter, and throughout the years, Pat Dooley. Work with a lot of these guys that know exactly what's happening better than I do. We talk to Brent Baird each and every week, but we text with these guys. A lot of this stuff, if anybody, we do our research. We talk about a lot of these teams and know a lot of people, but also are a lot of these email chains through the media on things that happen. So we'll really know by about Thursday or Friday how healthy all the players are, how guys like Grenard and how Zuniga, how the guys have looked in practice. So to me right now for a game like this, being patient is more key on the pick. I would say, though, that by Friday or Saturday, if you are taking the Gators, and many people listening to Go Gators, they might put a little money on their team. They might do that. Look, you can go down to Biloxi and watch the game, find your local friend, whatever that is. I feel that the Gators opening at 6.5 as an underdog is good. I think it'll move to about 5 or 4.5 by game time. I truly believe that the way the Gators have been playing lately and the way that Georgia, people can't get that bitter taste against South Carolina, or the first half where it was 0-0 against Kentucky. I think all those games will play a factor, and Florida's stock has been going up, and Georgia's stock has been going down in the public eye. Georgia's still a better football team, I believe, overall. I think that with Jake Fromm and their team, they're still a better football team, but I think Kyle Trask is going to be able to keep them, and they're riding a game where they feel confident in this. And I think if I had to set the spread, I would set it at 4. Sit it at 4 points right there. I think that's where you're going to finish. I think this is going to be the type of game that you're going to see a 28-24 Georgia win, or hopefully, I'm rooting for Florida. I hope they win it, but I'm seeing that game go right around there. And I'll be rooting the Gators on. I hope they win 28-24 or even more, but I'm seeing that type of score for this one. Let's take a look here. Almost halfway through the season, the NFL's 100th season is in full swing as 45 former Florida Gators across 22 teams have hit the field. And I'm telling you, a lot of these impact players like the Saints, getting out there with defensive back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, continue to make a lot of his recent opportunities. He's playing a lot more here late. Some of the injuries in the secondary, and had 5 tackles, had 2 big passes down the field I was watching that he broke up, in helping the Saints improve to 7-1 in a 31-9 victory. His first 2 career starts, he's had 6 defensive stops, a pair of tackles for losses, and a couple big moments to help just come through in a big way. And I remember his name coming through because being from Cocoa, Florida, that's where my phone 321 area code right there for where the shuttle goes off in Kenny Space Center. If anybody ever gets a call and thinks I'm soliciting them, as people do today, I'm not answering. That's a 321 area code. Nope, cell phone number right there. And they can go out there, and Cocoa has some really good athletes. We played against a lot of those athletes growing up there in Melbourne. And Chauncey Gardner was, one of these kind of guys that when you watch Gardner-Johnson come through, he made some big plays. And I'm telling you, in this matchup, you're looking at a guy that really has become somebody that is just taking his game to the next level. What Joe Hayden, Marquise Pouncey playing last night for the Pittsburgh Steelers and throughout the league. You had 4 Gators playing in the game with Arizona with DJ Humphries, Max Garcia, Marcus Gilbert, and Jonathan Bullard. For the Atlanta Falcons, Keanu Neal, who is on the IR right now, had a great start to his career. 4 years ago, he was an impact player for Dan Quinn, who has Florida ties, who had a chance to play the New England Patriots in that Super Bowl, which I loved. Not the first 3 quarters, but really loved that game. Keanu Neal was one that had some big plays back to the house and made it work. Buffalo Bills right now, rookie Voshon Joseph. He's been on the IR as well this season, but somebody that I think has a career and will be around as an impact player for a good defense coming up here, hopefully next season when he has a chance to return. Brian Cox Jr. Did not appear in a game so far this year, but he's out there for Carolina. Jordan Scarlett carried the ball for the first time in his career and rushed for 4 touches for 9 yards. Remember, they were getting waxed right there by San Francisco. So in cleanup duty in the 51-13 loss, Jordan Scarlett got an opportunity. More Gators. Trey Burton tallied 1 reception for a season-long 16-yard catch right there. He's been a disappointment, not him, but the way they've utilized him in the offense for the Bears in the 17-16 loss. Eddie Pinheiro, though, has been a bright spot. Tied a career high with 3 made field goals and hit an extra point. I was surprised that this guy had to work for a spot. I know the NFL can only fit so many kickers in, and frankly, if you miss 1 or 2, you could be out of a job real quick. We had a number of kickers here, including Tate High School's Graham Gano, guys like Lawrence Tynes from Milton. And Gano had it tied for the record for longest kick, found himself out of a job. And it's just how the way the world works. You miss a few kicks and everybody's infuriated. And people are getting mad at Vinatieri this year, miss an extra point. This guy's a god of kickers. He missed an extra point. People were furious last week as he's been going gray for like the last 10 years. Looking at guys like Antonio Callaway, caught 2 passes for 11 yards for the Cleveland Browns. You had Carlos Dunlap and Fred Johnson, who had a chance to play for the Cincinnati Bengals in their loss. Duke Johnson made a couple big tackles right there as the Denver Broncos lost to the Indianapolis Colts, and Duke Johnson did not say a word like Joe Flacco did in the media afterwards, and did not blame the team at all. Jared Davis, in his 3rd year, started linebacker, had 5 tackles and a forced fumble in the matchup for the Detroit Lions, and Jeff Driscoll sat there and watched Matthew Stafford get a victory against the Giants. Quincy Wilson, in his 3rd year, he's not playing right now, but on the Indianapolis Colts team. Taven Bryant, the big guy in the middle, had a couple tackles in his first career start he made this week for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lorente McCray and Jawan Taylor also had a chance to play and make that impact. Remember, Taylor, the early pick on the offensive line, made a start on the offensive line this week as well. Kansas City Chiefs, you had Demarcus Robinson, who's had a good season. He reeled in 2 catches for 6 yards. Since Tyreek Hill has come back, he's probably backed up a little of his PT. Joey Ivey is not currently playing, but he is on the roster as well. Jalen Watkins and Mike Pouncey, they both are not playing right now, but had a chance to play for the LA Chargers on their roster. The LA Rams, Dante Fowler, started outside linebacker, and he was a beast in this game. I remember watching him. Had a team-high 2 sacks. Ja'Kai Polite, who's out there on the practice squad this year, rooting on his former Gator for the LA Rams in the win when they were overseas. Looking at the New York Giants, you have John Halapio had a chance. Halapio went out there and made some plays, started on the offensive line. Janoris Jenkins intercepted his 4th pass of the season right there and made 3 tackles for the Giants in their loss. Alex Anzalone out there, he's been on the IR this year for the Saints, watch from the sidelines. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Chauncey Gardner, coming through with some big names and made his 2nd consecutive start. Best game of his career so far with 5 tackles. New York Jets, as we continue the Gators in the NFL, out of the 45 out there, Jonathan Harris, Marcus May, and Brian Poole making an impact. Then you had the Oakland Raiders and David Sharp. He didn't play in this one, but big guy that's always been there. And then Trent Brown, who started at tackle, who got paid a ton of cash coming over from the New England Patriots. Pittsburgh Steelers with a 27-14 win. The Dolphins actually won for 1 half, but then Pittsburgh came through and got the victory by 13. Joe Hayden started at corner and made a team-high 8 defensive stops. And Marquise Pouncey started once again in his 10th season. Has been a staple, a Pro Bowler, started at center. One of those Steelers that'll go probably into the Steeler Hall of Fame if he continues at this track, because he doesn't look done at this point. Marcel Harris. He's known Dermontre Dawson back in the day, but pretty good overall. Marcel Harris and Tease Tabor right there getting a chance. They did not appear in this game, but still, they got to be proud of being on a roster with the San Francisco 49ers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Vernon Hargreaves notched 5 tackles and recovered his first fumble of his career. Hargreaves, a early pick in the first round, a guy that's been one of those bright spots for a Tampa defense that's had their problems. Washington, in their 19-9 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Jordan Reed has been out on the IR with another concussion. Caleb Brantley as well. But Quentin Dunbar had a couple big plays in the secondary at corner, and John Bostic started at linebacker with 9 defensive stops and a sack in this one. So your 45 players around the NFL, proud Florida Gators, and some names I'm sure you heard that had some really, really good memories back in the day of watching right there at the Swamp. They could use some of those players over the last 7 or 8 years to come through collectively instead of pieces at a time. But overall, this team's growing. They're getting better. And guys like Jonathan Grenard and players like Ja'Kai Polite, hopefully will get a chance down the road if he can find a way, maybe XFL for his future after having a tough combine this year. But, hey, maybe a Zuniga, the possibility of guys out there that will be playing at the next level. C.J. Henderson will be playing at the next level. Should be fun to watch in this week's game. When we come back, we'll preview the upcoming matchup. Florida-Georgia week right there. World's largest outdoor cocktail party. The Halloween costumes, the 42-ouncers. Oh, yeah, I've partied in it. Been to 3, remember 2 of them. And it's always a good time when Florida plays Georgia. We're coming back for more right here on Go Gators, ESPN Pensacola, brought to you by the Holman Law Firm.
I'm pretty sure our new house might be haunted.
What makes you say that?
The furniture is levitating. Oh, and the ghost.
Welcome home.
Yeah, that's spooky.
You know what's really scary? Missing out on Geico for help with homeowners and renters insurance. Geico makes it easy to save a bunch.
Great! You're not sticking around, right?
The party's just getting started.
Happy Geico Week. Call today and see how easy homeowners and renters insurance can be.
Local sports radio doesn't stop on Fridays, which is why we bring you Sports Call with Davis and Justin.
College football, NFL, the MLB playoffs, UWF football. We're talking about the big games and sporting news every Saturday from 11 to 1.
Plus, interviews with the athletes, coaches, and fellow journalists.
Sports Call with Davis and Justin.
11 to 1 every Saturday on Pensacola's home for local sports, ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
This
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
The key on offense is going to be whether Franks can come back and duplicate what he did in the last 4 games.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1 is all about high school football. Catch the biggest local games every Friday night on Pensacola's home for local sports and our sister station, News Radio 92.3 AM 1620.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station, your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back to Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Leonte with you here, having some fun with you. Just our good friend Justin Patrick walking in. He's got his whole Gator outfit on, enjoying it right there. And Gator fans are excited. They're pumped for this week. Big matchup right there against the Georgia Bulldogs. And obviously, Dan Mullen has to be excited the way that his team has played so far this season. In their one loss to, and it does count in college football, the way you lose. Now, if you're good enough, you get redemption. And what I mean is, Clemson fans will forget they lost to Syracuse the year Deshaun Watson came back down the field and won them a national title. Or, Alabama fans will forget they lost to LSU when they come back and they beat LSU and got a second redemption opportunity. For the Florida Gators, the game they lost to LSU is a game where most fans felt okay with it. They walked into Death Valley, into Baton Rouge, chance of rain, never. On a game where they were a 14-point underdog and a team that had college game day coming to town. Mike the Tiger was eating meats made out of Florida Gator logos. They were ready to rock it. Purple and gold was jamming. That game, a lot of people making that trip. And the difference in that one was the Gators showed up, and they had them scared for a while. 28-21 in the third quarter. I know because I was watching it with a group of LSU fans as my Gator, grew up in the Bermuda Triangle of the SEC. Grew up with Florida Gator mom, dad, and brother. Brother used to hit on Aaron Andrews. Didn't work out, I always say. They were in the same radio crew together back in the day at Florida. And then you also had a Alabama regime that is pretty obvious. You can go more than probably anywhere in town without getting a Roll Tide. That's actually like a good game to play today. Go somewhere in public where, a hardware store, Walmart, Publix, wherever you're going, and see if you don't see something Alabama. Not that they're selling, because that's obvious. You win that game already. Not playing supermarket sweep. But if you go out there and try that today, like try to drive home and not see a bumper sticker, try to go into a store with more than 20, 30 people in it, and see if you don't see something Alabama. I almost guarantee you will fail at that. Or win if you're an Alabama fan, and maybe you made a friend or a wife for life. There you go. See, I'm matchmaker.com. But Alabama is a team that has been able to play well this year. LSU, Florida, and Georgia are all in that mix. While Auburn's lost a couple games, they've been competitive, but people are wanting to see Gus Malzahn shake it up a little with their play calling and not do the same thing we've seen so many times. And then you have Texas A&M who's fallen. Missouri has fallen. These teams that we expected maybe to be right there in the mix are now all of a sudden you got 4 very competitive teams at the top. Last week you had 5 teams in the top 10 of the SEC, and that's something that is very rare, that half of the teams in the top 10 are out of one conference. But now 4, and all 4 with a legit shot. And coming into this game, the Florida Gators now ahead of Georgia in ranking, number 6 versus number 8. And thoughts go out to the Georgia family. This didn't become huge news, and it ended up having an okay outcome for the story. So I think that's one of the big reasons. But I do want to mention and let people know, because it really wasn't as public as many people in mainstream media have found out. But Mark Richt did have a heart attack this week. He said, "I'm assuming word travels fast, so I wanted to be able to inform everyone that I did have a heart attack this morning. I'm doing okay. As I went through the experience, I had peace, knowing I was going to heaven, but I was going to miss my wife. I plan to be at work this week." So Mark Richt will be back out there at the ACC network, where he's doing a good job. And the former Georgia coach, that it was a great man of faith. And Kirby Smart has kept that tradition alive there, of making sure they go to church, they pray before the games, and as a family. Should be in that order, faith, family, football, regardless of who's listening today. That's how I look at it. It's up to you to decide. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life. Not one of those people. I haven't made church in a couple weeks or a while, and that's, you have decisions. You choose your own path when you get older. But faith, family, football, to me, always should be in that order. And when it comes down to the Georgia Bulldogs, Mark Richt is the guy that really, he had kids that will, if you talk to his players, people will go back and do anything for the coach. And that's why they were so upset when he was getting pushed out and had to go to Miami, because so many people wanted to still play for him. He was the kind of guy you wanted to play for, but did suffer a heart attack this week. And it's just one of those moments. He'll be okay, and he is back at work. But I'm glad that it was end up being an okay story at the end of the day. So our thoughts as part of Gator Nation on the show, and everybody in the SEC, I'm sure, thoughts go out to Mark Richt as a human being before any rivalry. Well, the Gators getting set to go here, and glad to get back. Jonathan Grenard, the guys, Jabari Zuniga, and the players that missed some time. I think that's one of the big stories. If you had to take about the headline and not just the game, about them getting back is huge. Some of the other stuff going on right now, remember, opening night, November 5th, as the Florida Gators in basketball will get set to start their season. This is a basketball team that has, with Mike White, very anticipated year, number 6 in the nation, and they'll face Lynn to start the season there, and an opportunity coming up there on November 6th. They will have a chance, or November 5th, they will kick off their season in basketball. So a number of games coming up here. Florida Vanderbilt, scheduled for noon kickoff, by the way, when they return to the Swamp, coming up there on November 9th. That'll be a noon kickoff matchup that has been announced. And also talking about some of the games right now, as you have a chance to get out there this week. And look, Saturday, Climb for Cancer, bringing children facing cancer together with Gator student athletes for a morning of fun. It was a great event, and I know a couple people that actually went there for the game, so for the event. So nothing like the Gators coming together, impacting, having some fun, and enjoyed their week off. So all the players and some of the football players that had that week to get ready in preparation
Football
for this
season
week's.
has arrived.
Thanks for listening to Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM, brought to you by the Holman Law Firm. Get ready for the Paul Feinbaum Show.
And the NFL on Sundays. If you would like to partner with ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, give us a call at 262-6000.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM, WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and Swamp, the Aggies strong. There's nothing like the SEC.